twinkle, she's got that flair. Chanel number 19 just fills the air. She takes a microphone and hits the street, revealing stars with a positive beat. From set to sofa is where it's at, and Lulu, darling, just loves a chat. She talks to stars with grace and style. Lulu sure will make you smile.
Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to From Set to Sofa. Today's guest takes me right back to my days on The Young Doctors, and to one of my most blush-worthy moments on set. Now, picture this. There I was, standing opposite this brilliant actor, desperately trying to look professional. Except I hadn't learned my lines properly. Instead of giving him the right cues, I was tossing out absolute nonsense. His face was priceless, equal parts confusion and horror, which, funnily enough, turned out to be exactly what the scene needed. So the audience got the gag, but poor him. Now, look, in my defence, I had 3 house guests crammed into our tiny semi in Kirribilli. The noise was so outrageous I gave up on studying and joined the party instead. Pourquoi pas? Not my finest hour. Luckily for me, our darling director, Max Varney, used the very first take, sparing me from total humiliation. Still, I've carried decades of stage fright guilt over that scene, and today, at long last, oh, I do hope so, but I get a chance to redeem myself. Our guest is a Central Coast Theatre stalwart, a great mate of Tim Page, my buddy, and someone who used his professional magic to mentor the next generation of performers. He went on to become a much-loved compere and entertainer with a career far more varied than you might expect. A few years ago, he faced a serious illness, but true to form, he bounced back with unstoppable energy. These days, he's still directing, producing, and sparkling brighter than ever. So without any further ado, let's get the one, the only, Chris King on the line. G'day, Chris. How are you?
G'day, Lou. Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Now listen, my darling, I have such an apology to make to you. About 40 years ago when we were on Young Doctors together and I was playing Deborah Kendall, we had a scene together and I didn't learn my cues for you. And, I had the general gist of the scene.
Yeah.
And I can only say that it was because I had about 4 Thai boys staying at our place and they, I just didn't have a moment to myself to learn it.
Right.
And Max Varnell, the gorgeous man, he said he was kind of happy with it, but the look on your face was, oh, my gosh.
Oh.
And it was just, but he said fantastic because that's what I wanted in the scene. I have no idea how it happened, but I felt so bad about it.
Yeah, look, Lou, you shouldn't feel bad because when I started the show, the wonderful Gwen Plumb said to me, I never give proper cues.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she said, you talk when I shut up.
Oh.
I said, okay, no problem.
Oh, God bless her cotton sock.
Yeah.
But Max said that we got, he was very happy with what the scene was supposed to indicate, to the audience. And it was a lot of fun, actually, watching your expressions, because that was what it was supposed to happen, in the scene.
Right, okay.
Darling. Thank you. Thank you for telling me about Gwenny, because I didn't have many scenes with her, you see.
Well, I did. I was very lucky. I had lots of them.
Yeah, God, what a beautiful woman she was.
Amazing, yeah. I mean, I was thinking back, Lou, thinking we're doing this.
Yeah.
I was so blessed to have all these wonderful people. I once played, I did a series called Ben Hall,
Yeah.
and Ruth Cracknell was my mother.
Oh.
And we used to spend afternoons in the motel cafe in the Blue Mountains. And I look back and thinking, God, how lucky was I having this wonderful person to talk to.
Yeah.
You know, she was amazing. Ruth was well known then, but not as much after mother and son.
Oh, no. What a wonderful series.
But, you know, all these wonderful people that we had around us.
Yeah. Weren't we blessed?
You know, I didn't really realise how lucky I was at the time, but we were very lucky.
Oh, we sure were. We sure were. Me also on Young Ramsay with all those wonderful older actors.
Yeah.
Fabulous, fabulous.
Yeah,
But listen, you grew up in Tasmania,
I did.
where it all began in the Theatre Royal Light Opera Company.
Yep.
How did you get involved in that?
My sister was involved, my late sister was involved, and I went along, and the Theatre Royal Light Opera Company was one aspect, but I was also part of a thing called the Theatre Royal Workshop, which was for kids. A lovely lady called Diana Large ran that. She was a RADA graduate, and she was brilliant, and I later had the great pleasure of being part of something she directed. She got a grant for, which was the Wakefield Cycle of Plays, and I got to work with Ron Hadrick,
Oh, wonderful.
Peter Carroll, Beverly Dunn, all these wonderful actors.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was just very fortunate, again, even that young, to have the experience of their knowledge,
Yeah.
and it was wonderful.
Yeah. Was music your first love?
No, not really. I think, no, certainly acting was, just straight acting. And I've directed a few musicals and been in some, but no, it's not a great passion. I'm actually just in the preparations now to direct a wonderful play called Breaker Morant
Oh, terrific.
next year. And I've had the pleasure of speaking to Ken G. Ross, who is the writer, who's still alive, because I had to trace down where we got the, getting the rights, and I got to speak to Ken. And it's an amazing play because the film was based on the play.
Gee.
And it's an amazing play. It's a great bit of theatre.
Wonderful.
So it's going to showcase a lot of very good local actors. We've got a very strong community theatre here on the Central Coast.
I know you do.
And recently I was in the Crucible, Arthur Miller's Crucible, and, it was a fantastic cast. And thankfully, mostly, or not thankfully, not anything to do with women, but it has mostly, Breaker has no women in it all. The movie did, but the play doesn't. But it's, often in local theatre you say, we can't get blokes, well, we've got a plethora of them. So I'm very excited to start to get into that project, which will be on in May next year.
Wonderful. And that's at the Laycock?
No, it's a theatre called the Red Tree Theatre, which is in Tuggerah. It's a little 180-seat theatre. Yeah, I had an association with Laycock Street Theatre because I managed it for a long time for the council.
Yeah.
But no, I've gone further afield because it's this lovely little theatre, sort of getting out and doing stuff that that is risky sometimes. But they want to back me with Breaker. Because I sat there and watched the movie and I thought, gee, this would be a great play.
Yeah.
And typical Tasmanian logic, I go start to research it. Oh, it is a play. That's what the film was based on. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it really is going to be exciting to do it.
Oh, that's great. Great. So say the name of the theatre again.
The Red Tree Theatre.
Wonderful. At
Tuggerah,
Tuggerah.
yeah, on the northern end of the coast.
Right.
Ken's coming up from Sydney. He lives in Randwick, the writer. So people from Sydney, it'll be on in the first week of May, and it'll be exciting to see because the Crucible certainly went down well.
Yep.
And what I'm trying to do is really lift the standard of our local theatre with the breadth of my knowledge, and I have directed a number of big musicals here. It sort of keeps my hand in, which is important because 3 years ago I had a massive stroke.
I know.
And I was very lucky to recover from that without any residual effect. And I'm not really able to work full-time, or I'd like to do some part-time work, but to keep my hand in locally and with theatre, which is something I know and my brain hasn't lost, it's really good. It's good therapy.
Oh, it's great therapy. And what a wonderful thing that you're doing for the Central Coast and beyond. It's just fantastic.
Well, Tim Page is up here now too. Timmy's here, former Young Doctor star.
Yes.
And doing great things at the Conservatorium of Music. And, it's great that we get a chance to give back.
Absolutely. That is exactly what those older actors did for us,
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. But whilst you were in Tasmania, you attained 3 top placings in the Eisteddfod Awards.
Yes, I did. I did pretty well, and I won the most promising actor at Hobart Repertory way back in 72, I think it was.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah, which was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Tasmania in those days had a very thriving theatre population,
Mm-hmm.
and it was fabulous. Some fabulous people have come out of there.
Mm.
And, I was very fortunate to have that as a launching pad when I came to the mainland and start to get in professional. I had a lot of lucky breaks. I got some work with the ABC, and I did a couple of telly features. One was called Lindsay Boy. Mm-hmm. It was first thing Mark Lee ever did. He was playing Will Mates in this thing with the wonderful Vince Ball and Jenny Lee and Joan Bruce, I remember. And then another wonderful film called Pig and a Poke, which won a couple of Logies. And I was fortunate because it was such, ABC back in those days was brilliant, and it had a wonderful unit and these great directors who taught you a lot. Mm-hmm. And a wonderful man called Brian Burl, he's a New Zealander, and he taught me something that every actor should know. And sadly, in community theatre, probably, you learn to act. Mm-hmm. But he said to me one day, because you used to shoot the film first in those days in the studio. Mm-hmm. So I've been out shooting film, and he sat me down one day and said, "Look, you're doing really well, and I want to give you a hint." I said, "Yep, go for your life." He said, "Look, it's really good to be a reactor, but you're learning your lines so completely. You're learning you just with the same expressions and not really in the moment."
Yeah.
Now, that sounds pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But, when I was so young, that's one of the, some community theatre is great, but you learn you can pick up some bad habits occasionally.
Yes.
And I had obviously done that. I was so intent on knowing my lines, but I was not in the moment. And that's been the best bit of advice anyone ever gave me.
Fantastic.
As an actor.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I say you just get in the moment and react. And yeah, okay. Mm. So for all those young actors out there, they take it on board because it's something that to me now is so obvious, but I hadn't learnt that, in my growing up in the business. So, yeah.
Great.
So it's funny, isn't it? Because you think now, Young Doctors was part of the fantastic golden years of TV. Mm-hmm. And the great Reg Grundy, what a great guy, to have a go like he did.
Oh, we'd have been lost without him and Hector Crawford.
Yep.
Fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm. Yeah, we would. But, because Doctors was Spreads' last throw of the dice with drama. Mm. But thankfully, the network persisted with it because the off-season ratings were really good. And the network persisted, and then, Prisoner wanted to do other things, but Prisoner was one of them. Mm. So I think I feel very privileged that I was able to be part of that. It was just amazing years of TV, the Hogan Show, not just dramas, but, and we worked on the Nine Network, which was fabulous. Mm. Because I'd actually worked on Nine before Doctors. I was doing a show called the Super Flying Fun Show.
Well, that's, that was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, with Marilyn Mayo and Marty Morton.
Yeah.
Because in Tasmania, I'd been doing a kids' afternoon cartoon show playing a dog, Gus Dog. So I came to Sydney and I'd been given Jim Badger, who was the producer of the Fun Show's contact, and rang up and, he saw me and said, "Yeah, we're looking for someone to play the Paddle Pop Lion." Great. Oh. I was the very first ever Paddle Pop Lion.
Oh, how gorgeous.
And that was a great show going live every morning. Yeah. And I think we were the first live show to go colour way back then. And there was so much fun on the show, it was ridiculous. Yeah. And afterwards, Bill Collins recorded The Golden Years of Hollywood in the same studio. So we used to see Bill come in, and now you can look back and go, wow, that was incredible. Yeah. Yeah. And it was my first interaction with Channel 9, and then along came Young Doctors. It's an interesting story how I got the role in Doctors. Because there was a show called Class of 75. I think it was on 7, I'm not sure. It was a Grundy show. And Alan Coleman, our producer of Doctors, I met Alan Coleman and he cast me in it. And no sooner had I been cast in the show that I got offered Ben Hall, which was an ABC co-production. And working with English directors and English actors. And anyway, my agent, Dean, at the time rang Alan and said, "Look, is there any chance of him being released from the contract?" And Alan, being Alan, said, "Yep, absolutely, no problem. It's too good an opportunity for a young actor to miss out on that." He said, "We'll do it on the one condition that he does the first thing we offer him afterwards." Yep. And that was Young Doctors. Oh, wow. So, you can imagine I was I think I was about 18 at the time, young, very young, and thinking, "God, this is amazing," and Ben Hall was incredible to me work on. Yeah. With the directors we work with and the actors. But and then I ran into Kerry Spence, who was the casting director of Grundy. Oh, Kerry was fantastic, yes. Yeah, and I lived in Mossman, and I ran into the supermarket and said, "Chris," she said, "I was just about to ring Jean because Alan wants to see you about something tomorrow." So I went in and did it, did the audition, and subsequently got the role. So. Wow. Well, you were in the big smoke now, weren't you, in Sydney? Oh, I certainly was. Yeah. I certainly was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think, because I don't see myself as any great brilliant actor, but, I've tried to make the best of the opportunities that I've had in any way. And somehow I've raised 7 children.
Wow. 7.
Yeah. 7 children, yeah, and I've just sort of gone on in my career to take on new challenges, like opening up a talent school for training of young singer dancers and actors, which we had great success with up here on the coast.
Yeah.
Natalie Imbruglia was one of our kids early on.
Absolutely. When you saw Natalie Imbruglia, did you think to yourself, well, she's got it, she's going to go places?
You'd have to be blind not to see it. She was amazing. Yeah. She was a stunning-looking young girl, and she's a good dancer, a good singer, and she went off and kicked off her acting career. But she was quite something else.
Yeah.
And we were lucky. There was a number of kids that came from that school that have gone on and had careers. And I worked in the Johnny Young system in Sydney and trained Sharon Millerchip. And it's funny because I went to one of the local theatres here to see a great show called The Queen's Nanny, and Sharon was the lead in that. So I was able to see her afterwards, and we had a great chat. So it's great to see these people kicked on. And another actor called Brett Climo.
Oh, yes, I remember Brett.
Remember Brett?
Oh, yes, he was lovely.
He came to acting classes at the King Kids studios that I ran.
Yeah.
But, as far as teaching people to act, I'm more or less talking about the business. So like when you're going for auditions and, just understand, the relationship between you and your agent and make sure you're doing your part of it. But, the agent works for you, work for the agent. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. But, it was good. And those are the sort of things, more motivational than teaching them to act, but just to get people to understand what they're doing. And, in auditions, somebody once taught me, the people that are opposite you, looking at you, are probably more nervous than you are because they've got to make the right decision. Yeah. So go in there and entertain them, do the scene, do the whatever, and concentrate on them enjoying themselves. And that was a great piece of advice.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Because, to me, the audience, it should always be, everything you do is for the benefit of the audience and the, in the play. So don't sort of get too involved in your own thing, just especially as a director. If you're going to do something, does that really impact on the audience positively? Does it shed more light on the text, or what does it do? Why are we doing it? And same with actors, what is motivating anything you do? It should be in line certainly with the text, because it can get a little bit, you've got great ideas, but hey, does that really add to the piece?
Now, I think that our listeners would love to hear more about your time in Young Doctors, playing Dennis Jamison. 1,086 episodes, 6 years. I mean, from orderly to nurse. Did you feel like you lived in the hospital?
If it had been home and away, I'd be a brain surgeon by now.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, what did you ask me then? Sorry.
Well, did you feel like you lived in the hospital? I mean, what was the journey like from orderly to nurse?
Well, the journey was fantastic. And again, looking back now, it was just so good, and we're so lucky to be a part of it. But the cast, it was a fantastic cast, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
And a cast that really got on well and worked as a team, because we had some really great people, Corny Francis.
Oh, God bless her. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was fortunate to be invited. I think Corny picked the people that went to her service, and I got an invite, and it was, and because I'd done This Is Your Life with Mark Holden and Johnny Walton before she passed, and, she was just so, brilliant lady, and we were lucky to have people, just great. They were great people. It was a fun time.
Oh, it certainly was. Well, I was only there for 6 months, but I loved every moment I was there. It was terrific.
Yeah, it was good. Well, I was fortunate enough to be there for 7 years, I think it was.
Yeah, 7, 6. I've got 6, but 7 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, 7. Was it 6 or 7? Yeah, I really, I can't quite remember, but it was a fabulous time. As I say, that era of TV and going to the Logies and I don't know. And really, and having great mentors like Gwen, keep your head together. And, Gwen was always a great coach about, like always talk to people, always acknowledge people. They come up to you in a restaurant, don't shoo them off. Talk to them because they're the people buying the groceries that are keeping us.
Well, that was another question I was going to say. Did you ever get sick of being recognised in the street? Did you go crazy or did you love it?
I loved it. I could tell you a really funny one. And speaking of Gwen, because I used to go to this shop on the way home. I lived at Mossman and I was, my wife wanted something and I called into this shop, this lady serving people and she comes up to me, she says, get out. I said, what? She said, get out of my shop. why? Is this counter camera? What is it? She said, how could you do that to that woman? And it was a storyline in Young Doctors where I hadn't been very kind to Gwen.
Yep.
And she was dead set and she didn't serve me. And I went, oh, okay, yeah. So people took it pretty seriously. So they were, but no, I always enjoyed the public. And I think, I was given good guidance to always engage properly and talk, because you never know. The people come up to me now and said, oh, yeah, I met you way back. I went, really? Wow. And they said, you're always good. You wanted to talk and we could ask you questions. Yeah, well, that's great, because that's what I wanted to teach younger people. It's a privilege to be able to do this.
Yes.
To entertain people.
Yes.
And have some sort of impact on them. And I still believe that now, even in local theatre, it's great.
Oh, yeah.
But, I'm still thankfully able-bodied enough and can remember my lines and all that stuff. And I much prefer the directing these days, I've got to say.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you that. Do you prefer directing to acting?
Yeah, definitely. I put it simply because I think you get to play all the parts.
Oh, yes.
You get to have... Well, you get to help create all the parts.
Yeah.
And the training that I have, especially when you look at Breaker, because Breaker, we're playing real people. These are all real people who lived, and you can research. And I've got a fabulous young guy that used to come to my talent school, Ben Hudson, and he's brilliant with the computers. And I directed Wizard of Oz a couple of years ago here. It was a huge production. We sold it out, and he did all the graphics, and we shot a little bit on tape. And because how do you do a cyclone scene in local theatre, like to make it effective?
Yeah.
And one thing then in Wizard, I think people always forget that Dorothy gets a knock on the head, and everything that goes on after that's her subconscious.
Oh, yeah.
It's all buried away. So we were able to film that and pay homage to the film, and it seemed to go down very well. But, yeah, I'm also, as I get older, I don't want everyone to, people, this is the way it's done and nothing else. So I'd like to have younger people on my production team.
Yes.
Who have a knowledge of, these days, because I had a granddaughter in the professional production of Annie in Sydney that was just on recently. And we went to see the show, and I saw Greg, former Wiggle, who I know, and he said, well, you should have seen the bloody bump in for this thing. Loads and loads of gear, because the technology, the sets and everything, the scenery that was there was just brilliant, amazing. It's a show in itself. So I'm aware, you've got to really have younger people have a different view. Yep, director's responsible, but you're really responsible for making sure you get the right people.
Yeah, and that's part of the whole process of being a producer and director and what have you.
Yeah.
But you were also a script and story writer on Young Doctors, weren't you?
Oh, look, a story writer, yeah. I came up with a couple of stories from my character, because we had I can remember Reg Watson, who was our producer, came and he said, look, we're having trouble writing some of the stories. Have you got any ideas? So I personally got called up for jury duty, and I went to Alan Coleman and said, I'm a bit worried about this. What if I'm sitting in on a murder and he recognises me? And Anyway, Alan, they wrote a letter and I got out of it. I said, Al, hey, what if Dennis got called in for jury duty? He said, yeah, well, what's your idea? And I said, well, he goes in there, we're 12 angry men at my back, and Dennis fight for what he believes in. And the wonderful Chard Haywood played opposite me as my counteract in that particular scene. And I also wrote another story where Dennis has a dream that the whole hospital is turned upside down. He becomes the superintendent. So Michael Beecher was an orderly who was the superintendent, and Ada, I think, was the head nurse, and Sister Scott was a young nurse, and it was really weird. Anyway, I didn't write the story, but I created the story. I wrote the story, and then they wrote the script, and it was really funny. It was a lot of fun for everyone to have a bit of fun with,
When the show wrapped, I mean, it must have been like losing your family. I mean, you enjoyed it all so much over all those years.
Well, Lou, I actually left before the show wrapped because Kim Rand, who was my wife, moved to America, and because Dennis and Caroline were such a lovely couple with our kids and things, they wouldn't do anything about killing her off. They moved Dennis to maternity, and I wasn't there in the end. I didn't really want to be there in the end because it's been so much fun. But I've seen glimpses of the last episode of which they did some repeats of my character. But yeah, look, it's a good lesson to do that because every good thing comes to an end. And even in local theatre, people get so involved and then it's not there. So you just got to train your brain. There'll be something else.
Absolutely.
And
what
treasure
happens.
the time that it was.
Yeah.
It's an experience and move on.
Yeah. Now, you popped up later on Where Are They Now?
Yeah.
Kerry Ann, Bert's morning shows. Was it weird reminiscing, or did you love it? Of course, I think you do.
Where are they now? Yeah, it was. We did twice, I think. It was good. It's a funny thing, Lou, because as we all get older and we physically change, and the way that it is, you know, they. I think we did. I can remember we did one with. It wasn't Kerry Ann or Bert, but it was on Channel 7, and I can't think of the guy. He used to host the Sunrise show, I think. And they sort of introduce you and they show footage of you way back then. You walk out and people go, oh, you can hear them go, oh, God, what's happened to him? He's got fat or he's, you know, whatever.
Oh, how cool.
But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun to see. Yeah, because we did a few of those sort of things catching up. We did Who Magazine, I remember, and Where Are They Now? But I sort of stayed in contact with Karen Penny, who lives now at Port Macquarie Way, and I had the pleasure of emceeing her daughter's wedding not so long back.
Lovely.
And I see Tim, obviously, locally. We catch up occasionally, and we've done a couple of shows together. But yeah, it was a family.
Yeah.
And you know, I think obviously again, it was I look back now. Now they've released some of it on DVD. It's interesting, and I've sat there and watched it and thought, wow, you know, look at that. It was quite ahead of its day.
Yes, it was. It was terrific.
So the formula was right,
Yep.
and Reg Watson and Alan Coleman had great English experience, as did Max Varnell, the director. But Alan and Reg were really responsible, I think, for getting that show to be such a great success.
Chris, do you think that the role of Dennis in Young Doctors typecast you?
Yes and no, but I always seem to play somebody's mate and a bit of an idiot. So I don't know. But no. No, but later on when I did guest stuff, I did a show called Murder Call with Peter Mockery and Lucy Bell.
Yeah.
And I went to the audition, and my character was called Thomas Rodonicus. And if you're a rugby league fan, you know Tommy Rodonicus was a great rugby league player. And I said, oh, Thomas, they said, yeah, look, what we're after is a counterpoint to Peter and Lucy, because they're all, you know, they're very young and very beautifully dressed and styled, but we're not going to make you that. You're going to be a bit of a roughhead. And that's how I played it. That's what they wanted. And that was fun. But after that, I don't really think I got typecast too much.
Well, I mean, there were other shows, A Country Practice, Water Rats, All Saints.
Yeah.
Were they meaty roles?
Water Rats was, I played a character called Rabbit Down, who runs Sex Theory. And the two lead police people come on board and because they're trying to trap somebody. And Rabbit was a bit of an idiot, I've got to say. But that was fun, yeah. And Country Practice, I did a couple of episodes, one playing the father of a girl who runs to Bonden Valley and meets up with a young guy who's living with Brian Wenzel and Lorraine Desmond. And, you know, the young guy makes the way that the girl comes back to us. It was a really lovely role. And All Saints, I played a bikie, has an accent and stuff.
Well, that's different to Dennis.
Yeah, that was different. And Robina Beard was my mother. And she was...
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, she was a real, you know, like a gossip, and this little boy who has cancer, she tells him, oh, don't be like my son, you're going to die, which he was going to die, and he did in the end. And so that was a similar type of character, I guess. They were all fun things to do. The really funny one, Lou, was number 96, which was before Doctors.
Oh, yes, yes.
But I played this guy called Wesley Walton, who was a clone of Mike Dorsey's character. And he brings me home to straighten out his daughter, played by Frances Hargraves. And so the scene goes like this. This is absolutely true. So I walk in and I meet Shard, and I was very nervous because I sort of, as a kid in Tasmania, I watched this show when I was allowed. So I've got, the scene is I go and sit down next to Frances, who was gorgeous, of course. And she says, oh, what's it on your arm? I said, it's my stamp collection, because he worked at the council, interestingly enough. And she said, can I have a look? And he was very protective of it. She said, which is the most valuable? And I pointed out, and she takes it and she puts it down the top, number 96, right? So I said, I need it. And she said, well, come and get it. And the script caused me to put my hand down the top, and I was so young and naive. I said to Brian, one of the directors, and I said, what happens here? I said, do you have a false hand? He said, like, you know, it was such a... I meant that seriously, you know, like, is there something... He said, no, you do it. He said, I want you to grope her. I said, what about her? He said, don't worry, she'll love it.
Wow.
And, yeah, and that, you know, the scene plays out, and Daddy walks back in, Mike Dorsey walks in, and that's it, and I'm out. But, yeah, that was one of the funniest things I ever had to do. But my naivety, but, you know, another really good one with Young Doctors, very early on, because the show got axed in favour of the Sullivans. And Nine did an offline survey, and the survey said, no, we want young doctors, so they put the show back on. They had this really big Christmas celebration in the first year, and we put together a Ruthie, who was our tape editor,
Yes.
and Jay Salmon and myself put together this fantastic goof reel. And, we're sitting in the makeup room one day and saying, well, we better make this good because Kerry Packer's coming and Reg and Joy will be there. We said, well, we're going to have entertainment. We said, I could get a DJ, and no. And our makeup lady said, well, as a matter of fact, she said, I have a son who has a garage band. They're just rehearsing. They do it for free. We went, wow, that'd be great. Okay. So the night comes and the band are playing, and everyone's having a great time. And I'm looking at the band, and our makeup lady, Pat, walks up and says, what do you reckon? I went, yeah, they're pretty good. I said, but I don't get, what is that thing on the drum kit, INXS? And she said, it's in excess. It's a play on words. I said, well, I don't know. And Michael Hutchins was Pat's son.
That's right.
And I said, and being a brash, young, stupid idiot, 18-year-old,
Yeah.
I said, well, tell Michael to change it because it'll never work.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And
I remember Pat talking about this garage band constantly, and there they were. Yeah.
There they were, and, Michael came in and, I remember he gave me the first cut of Just Keep Walking as a little gift and said, well, we can all make one mistake. And Gary Beers, the bass player, ended up living on the Central Coast. And his little girl brought my little girl to the talent school, and he reminded me of that very thing. Like, I cannot believe I said that.
Oh, darling, we all make mistakes. All of us do.
Mistakes.
We're only human.
Yeah, well, let's talk. I guess what listen out of that is careful what you say. Don't keep your opinion to yourself, really. But it was one of the fun things, yeah.
You met your first wife, Susie, on the set of Young Doctors, right?
No, I actually met her on the set of a thing I did called Pig and a Poke.
Oh, is that where?
Yeah, and Susie played a couple of episodes of Young Doctors, playing the babysitter in the very first, and then playing a stripper, which my character Dennis gets involved with. And it's really funny because she had this act with the sheep that she had. My little sheepie, she was supposed to be a herder, shepherd herder.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun because, she gets her eye on Dennis, and Dennis has just been married to Caroline, so he's all very nervous. Because, Dennis's character was always, he was a lady killer in his own head.
Yes. I remember that. We had a bit of a flirt too as Deborah Kendall and Dennis.
Yes. Yeah.
At least I was very manipulative, I think, my character.
Yeah. Well, Dennis didn't mind being manipulated, I don't think. Yeah, that was a fun part of his character. But, Susie did that. And I saw Susie just the other night, one of our grandkids' birthdays. So we've ended up having 7 children, grown-up children now.
What, to get all 7 with Susie, wow.
Yeah, and now we have 18 grandchildren.
Gee, 18?
Yeah.
What a family.
Yeah. Yeah, it's big. Christmas is fun.
Oh, I bet.
But, Lou, we've worked out a system how to, give the grandkids equal amount of presents and things, and we do a secret Santa for the adults, and it's fun. But no, Susie's going well. She's remarried and lives locally on the coast again.
And you're really good friends, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, we get on well.
Yeah.
Well, we both decided, there's no point to be angry with each other around the kids and the grandkids because they'll benefit much better if we get on, which we do.
Fabulous.
Yeah, and my youngest daughter, Jess, is a brilliant actress and singer and dancer. She's worked in America as a lead performer on Royal Caribbean, which is no mean feat because they audition all over the world. But she got that role and she really benefited by it, and she's done a number of really good things. She's made 3 feature films, privately backed feature films. One producer in particular took her interest in her. And it's great to see her doing so well because she's really wonderful. She's got a great talent. And I say little granddaughter, Willow, she's in a number of commercials and played the youngest Molly in Annie, which was lovely. So, some of them are carrying on it. But, I say to them, well, if you want to do it, then do it. And I said to them, don't push them, just let them go. If they want to do it, they'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so, that's what takes up my time now. I have been on a number of boards which weren't necessarily entertainment related. One was we have a big club group called Mingara Leisure Group, and I was on the board of that for 8 years. And Regional Development Australia get appointed by the Federal Minister for Regional Development, and I was on there for about 16 years. And I'm on the board of my local neighbourhood centre because the area in which I live in is a very tough area, as it is all over. And I love being on that board because we're really doing really good work in the community.
Wonderful.
So that's kept my brain working, and people say, you're looking all right. Well, it's good because there's too many people that I know you know, you watch the Logies and watch the In Memoriam and you see people who've gone that you know that you work with.
Mm. You've also done heaps of live entertainment and also compere, MC. You know, you've introduced the PM and premiers. You know,
I have. I've had the honour of introducing 2 PMs actually, John Howard and Julia Gillard.
Wow.
Yeah, and because I did this regular gig up here, which was a seniors concert, and both of them attended that. Not at the same time, but it was really great experience. But yeah, the emceeing part of things, I guess, Lou, you know, having to raise 7 children, I always had to be working.
Yes.
So I just followed things that I thought, oh, well, that'd be fun, yep.
Yeah.
And I had a wedding MC DJ business up here, and that was a lot of fun.
Chris, did you ever get nervous or, you know, sort of pinch yourself, basically?
Oh, yeah, look, you know.
When you were introducing these high-ranking people?
No, I was very lucky. One of the things that I did when I was still working professionally in Sydney, I hosted a pilot of a kids' game show for John Collins and Bruce Gingell. And John Collins was a really tough man, but it was good because he told you the truth. And he said, no, hang on, if you're going to do this, you've got to be captain of the ship. And the viewers have got to believe you wrote the show, you know everything about the show, you know all the contestants, and that sort of carried through to emceeing, you know. Make sure you know what you're doing before you get up and open your mouth. Think it through and be yourself. And you remember Jimmy Hannon?
Yes, I do.
Well, Jim gave me some great advice when I started doing this sort of stuff, and he said, mate, you're an actor, don't act, just learn who you are and be who you are. Be yourself. When you're hosting something, that's what people want, you know. You just want to, you know, it's funny, I went out to coffee this morning here, and I was listening to the radio and on the ABC, and they had somebody, a Dutch guy, who'd written a thing about how to overcome your demons and, you know, make sure you don't make gaffes when you're up in front of people. And the truth, say, you know, get your head clear and know exactly what you're there to do. You know, what's your job? Your job as an MC is to facilitate, not be the star of the show. I guess the biggest lesson there is the wonderful Bert Newton, who made a whole career out of being what's called a second banana.
Yes.
You know, and I worked with Bert a number of times and got to know him because Eliza, my second eldest daughter, and Matthew were born on the same day, and we shared a TV week thing together. And, you know, whenever we did stuff on the network, I don't know, I like Bert. And we did a Sale of the Century thing, you know, the Young Doctors, Sutherland, number 96. You know, anyway, it was funny. I think it was Bart John, Judy and I and Corny were in the Young Doctors one, and I won it and went into the grand final, and you're playing for home viewers and things. But I was down in Melbourne. I got a phone call from Bert saying, hey, do you want to come do Good Morning Australia tomorrow on Monday, and I'll pay for your accommodation? And I did, because there was time to reinvent Young Doctors, and he thought about it. There was a gag around reinventing the Bert Newton show. But, you know, have those sort of people, wow, to be in contact with. You can learn so much, and that was the best thing Jimmy taught me. Just if you're emceeing something, hosting something, just know who you are and be yourself. Don't act. Absolutely. Inverted commas.
Yes, absolutely. You did corporate and business events too. Did you get well paid for that?
Yeah, I did. One of the jobs I ended up having up here on the Central Coast was I got the role of business and tourism events manager for the local tourism company, and part of that also was being the executive director of a huge event called the Australian Springtime Flora Festival. And that got me into big events and being responsible to pull all that together. I was the entertainment director, then got promoted and got that job. So, yeah, I did. Yeah, did corporate again.
Well, with 7 children, you would need to be well paid.
It's a great motivator, isn't it? I worked really hard. I had the talent school business, then I was working on the weekends, emceeing or whatever, because you needed to, because, you know, we had to raise them, and now they've all grown up and they're wonderful children, especially through my illness. They've been fantastic to look after me and keep an eye on me.
Good.
And do what they can to help out,
Oh, that's wonderful. You returned to legitimate theatre playing the role of Max Bailstock in The Producers. That's a big role.
I did. That's a huge role. It's a fantastic role.
What did you love most about sinking your teeth into that?
I love the original Producers that Mel Brooks did with Gene Wilder and what was his name that played Max? Zero Mostel.
Oh, yeah.
And then Nathan Lane, there was another remake done. But it's such a funny show. And unfortunately these days it's a bit politically incorrect, but, you know, it's still a great character again.
Thinking about
And
it.
I worked really hard. I went to a trainer, got very fit just so I physically could take on the role the way I wanted to do it. It was a great role.
Yeah.
One of the best I played. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a funny, very funny script. The guy that directed it was great. Daryl Davis, a local guy, and we had a fantastic cast. And I had a fantastic Leo, guy called Zach Smith, and he was brilliant because you've got to get those two. Often in these things, you've got to get the characters right, the match well. And I'm thinking about Breaker, I'm really considering a number of people to be in that to make sure we get the cast right because it's so important, for the audience.
Yes.
Making sure we do our best.
Oh, yes.
And we realise when you're playing real people, you've got to be very careful. I've directed a couple of things. I've directed The Boy from Oz and Shout. And if you're going to play Peter Allen, then let's be true. I took most of my cast and production team to Armidale and we met up with people who knew Peter and a lady who was Peter's first girlfriend where they sat in Armidale on one of the, they'd sit together and have ice creams and stuff. And she's a lovely lady called Jenny Godwin.
Wow.
Yeah, so Jenny has seen every Boy from Oz production all over the world and she came to see ours. I'm delighted to say she said to myself and Robin, my ex-wife, who was my assistant director, she said, you guys have nailed this because Will, it's scary. He said, he's so like Peter.
Oh, right.
It's like seeing Peter again.
Wow.
And credit to Will because he really got into the character and we did that research and getting to meet people that knew Peter. And, I'm lucky enough to know a guy called Lucky Star. I've been everywhere, man.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucky lives on the Central Coast too and said to me, look, Peter was just Peter. He was flamboyant. But when he came home, you sit down at the pub and have a beer. He was just the boy from
Oz.
Tenderfield. That's who he was. But that's who he really was.
Yeah.
And he said, that's the secret. So I was lucky enough to have some input from people like Peter and Patty Anfoot, little Patty, who I've worked with a lot.
Oh, she's beautiful, that woman.
Oh, she is beautiful. She's amazing. She sings better now than she's ever done.
I taught at Keen Kids with her.
Yeah, that's right. She did too.
Yeah, she was just gorgeous.
So you taught at Keen's, so I taught at Keen's for a while there too.
Yeah, yeah.
And I ended up managing it when they went overseas.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that's where I knew Patty from too, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to have coffee together and chinwag. It was wonderful.
Yeah, she's great, isn't she?
Oh, she's gorgeous. I saw her up the mountains just recently and she remembered me, which I was so happy about. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, well, they're doing a show called The Good Old Days of Rock and Roll with Digger Revell and Jade Hurley, Lucky and her, and a couple other people of that era. And it's selling in theatres right throughout Australia.
Oh, she's still working, still magnificent.
Yeah,
oh,
and she loves teaching singing. She taught at the school.
Yeah.
And she used to come to the musicals that we directed, and she loved that. She was so encouraging. Yeah, because Cole, of course, established ATA All-Stars, a fantastic agency that promoted lots of shows and lots of talent, lots of wonderful people. And I think I'm very privileged to know all of these people along the way, amazing.
Yeah.
And another interesting one is the wonderful John Farnham. When I was a kid in Hobart, I was probably about 16. John was working at one of the venues there, a hotel.
Yeah.
And my parents took me to see him anyway, and I sort of said to them, I'm just going off for a second. And I tracked down John's room. Knock, knock, knock on the door. Daryl Sambley's manager came out. Yeah, what do you want? I said, I'd just like to speak to Mr. Farnham.
Yeah.
And he sort of said, basically, bugger off. And John comes out and said, no, hang on a second. Come in, mate. And he introduced himself. I said, I really love what you do. I'd like to do that one day. He said, well, you should go ahead and do it. If you want to do it, he said, if you want to do something, go out and have a go.
Good on you.
And I got to see John years later at one of the airports when we were travelling somewhere and doing stuff, but having that sort of interaction. And I'm a huge John Farnham fan. I think, he's brilliant, the way his story.
Oh, he'll live in our hearts forever.
Yeah, and he never gave up, because he had a really tough time.
Yeah.
Because for someone that had done so well, and I've read his book and I loved his book, but yeah, he's a great, he just was amazing and reinvented himself. And the idea is to keep working. And he talks a lot about, the love for his audiences and his fans. So it's an interesting business. And I think, if I'd known all the things that I know now when I was coming through, it would have been good.
The sky would have been the limit. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I look back, I think I was really, I think for a person the level of talent I had, I did pretty well.
This is a question I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Looking back on your career, were you happy with the targets you reached?
Look, I was fortunate to keep working because that was a necessity. I guess I would have liked to have done more in films, but I can remember auditioning for Bodyline, Kennedy Miller,
Yes.
and unfortunately I didn't get the role because they said, look, it's not your acting, it's just your association with young doctors is so strong.
Yeah.
We want people to see Don Bradman and not Dennis Jamison. I went, yeah, I understand that. And that, so, it swings and roundabouts, but hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would have loved to have done a bit more film work because I like the technique of film. But again, can't complain. I had a lot of fun doing that. Recently, we've just made a pilot up here about community theatre and all the vagaries and ins and outs called Gosford City Players. And we're hoping that'll get picked up. So that was fun to do too because it was shot film style. But, no, Lou, I've got to feel I'm very fortunate to had a great career. I've got a beautiful family, got great friends from that. And, I've now got to the point in my life where I go, well, that was wonderful, but it's a new life now because I'm 69 years of age. And
oh, you're a baby.
Yeah, I know. I'm only a baby. Yeah, that's what people tell me.
Well.
But, and to sort of get involved, you've got to stay involved in something.
Yes.
Especially something I like. And I think the local theatre scene here on the Central Coast is amazing. There's some really good things and some not so good things which you get. But the Red Tree Theatre are a wonderful organisation. They're a charitable organisation, that the Elderslie Foundation, that had some money and set up this theatre. And they're giving people a go and trying to do some Australian stuff, which is really good. And they're a really great selection of plays. They do a musical and a couple of great people run it, and giving local talent a really good place to work in. So I think, that's what my future holds.
Absolutely. And you just keep working, baby. I mean, this is, really important to just keep that talent out there. And
and keeping your brain active.
Yeah.
So I don't plan to give it up, and I hope it doesn't give up on me. You're as good as your body and your brain keeps going. So I'm certainly planning to do that.
Now, as you do reflect on your body of work, what do you hope audiences will remember most about your contributions to the world of entertainment?
That we entertained them, that we left them with something. They had a laugh, they had a cry. Yeah, I don't think, to be honest, I don't think I was that impactful an actor, but the work that I did was done with love. And, I tried to stick to what people had taught me and people who knew much better than I did. And that's sort of been, I guess, what I've, in going on and, running things like talent schools and then getting involved in local community theatres and...
Well, giving back, as you said before, just giving back.
Yeah, I got two stepdaughters here who run a fantastic studio called Plumb Studios, and they're both doing very well with that and their partner, and lots of lovely young people are coming out of there. They both work professionally, but that's really great to see. I love going and seeing their stuff and, just kids, young people having a go, and you just try and encourage them. So it's just like John Farmer said, if you want to do it, go for it. If you really want to do it badly enough, have a go.
Yep.
And be prepared not to take no for an answer.
Yep. Good advice. Fantastic.
Great advice, yeah.
And just a little bit more advice for young performers coming up. You've given a lot of good advice during this little chat, but is there anything else that you'd like to say to younger performers?
Look, have a go and remember your audience first.
Yeah.
It's not just about us, it's about entertaining your audience, getting there and really learning and getting the moment and working with great people. And don't be mediocre, because I feel here sometimes community theatre is a lot of fun, but it's become quite competitive. And on the Central Coast, we've got a couple. We've got Laycock Street Theatre and the Art House, which are both council-owned venues. But groups go, we need a concession to use it. Well, you make a choice to use those venues and everything they bring. But your show's got to be up to standard. If you're going to charge big fees, your show's got to be up to standard.
Yeah,
don't
absolutely.
just settle, it's all okay. No, aim for something brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
And get the right people around you to do it.
Good advice.
Yeah, well, I think that's the only advice you can. I know that I can be a pain in the neck about it, but the standard, it's amazing. I started working in community theatre and you find some amazing people. Because you get paid for something doesn't mean you're brilliant at it. But there are people there emerging that, have obviously had, I think of one local actor, he is brilliant. He was a Qantas pilot and he is absolutely brilliant. I love working with this man because he gets it. He's got a natural acting ability.
And there are people out there that are naturals, just totally, they're made for it. I mean,
Yeah.
like Natalie, for example, you know?
Yeah, well, she's, it was no surprise that Natalie did so well. But, you know, she had the package. She was amazing.
Oh, definitely.
But no, Lou, I think that you just keep contributing
Yes,
and be clear in what it is you want to contribute.
yes,
And I think, there is a talent to, like, sporting coaches and in entertainment is seeing something in somebody that hasn't been really brought out and learning how to bring it out and how you speak to them and how do you motivate them. You know, as people did with me, got into my head and, open up and be open. And it's a creative process and really have a go, you know.
yeah,
And you can't be a little bit pregnant. I don't think you can be a little bit funny. If you're going to do, play comedic characters, then you've got to play the situations for straight. Don't play the jokes. Play the scene,
yeah,
as you will know.
yes, I do.
But that's something that you need to learn, you know, because I see a lot of community actors sometimes trying to play the joke.
Yes.
No, let the joke happen. Just
Yes.
play the scene straight, you know.
Good advice.
But there are things you learn, and if people are willing to learn, some people aren't, some people aren't. So you have a go.
Ah, Chris, what a great career you've had.
Thank you, Lou.
And still going, still going.
Yeah, still going. Yeah, I don't think unless something extraordinary happens, and maybe the pilot takes off, and I'll be doing things professionally because it's demanding. You know, you've got to be physically and mentally well enough to do that.
Yes.
Not that you do any less in, shows that I've done recently. I didn't have a lot of lines, but it was great. I was able to get into the character.
Yeah.
And working with great people.
Yeah.
So, but I think you've got to be realistic, and that's the thing. When no matter what age and what career you've had, but you do get to a point where physically I had to retire. I've been really fortunate not to be struck down as many people who have strokes.
No. Oh, praise the Lord on that one. Thank goodness for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you keep on doing what you're doing, Lou. It's fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed learning more about you today than I've ever known before and
Thank you.
having this wonderful conversation. So,
Thank you, Lou. Yeah, it's been good to talk to you. I learned a lot more about you. I had no idea that we had that scene that you talked about at the start of the interview.
oh, well,
I don't remember it.
It just
anyway.
came up to me when I was, and it was a memory that I thought, oh, I must clear this,
Whatever I did was in the moment, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. Well, Max Varnell loved it. So, we did our job,
You know what? Occasionally I see episodes of Skippy that Max directed. Because we used to go down to the Blues Point Hotel after shooting
That's right.
with a couple of the crew and Max has talked about his time directing Skippy, which was really interesting to hear. And now you see, because, there's so many, it's funny watching back and think something like Skippy and you see so many great actors we work with, younger there, and incredible.
Oh, great stuff. And what memories we have of all the shows we did.
Yeah, well, I'm very proud I'm an Australian and I'm very proud of our industry.
So am I.
I think you look at Home and Away and Lynn McGranger, what an amazing career.
Oh, she's a gorgeous woman too.
Yeah, and Ray Ma and all those guys.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. It's incredible that show's gone as long because Doctors at the time was the longest running show
And
after 7 years.
do you know, the bigger the star, the nicer the person I found.
Yeah, Yeah.
There was no insecurities. It was just give.
yeah,
Beautiful people. Beautiful. We were very, very lucky.
Yeah.
And still are.
yeah, we were very fortunate. Yeah, absolutely.
Still are.
I agree.
Well, I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, you too, Lou. All the very best.
And I'll try and come up and see your show in May.
Yeah, I'll certainly invite you and Tim. Come and see it.
Please do. It'd be wonderful.
Okay, Lou. All the very best. Thank you.
And to you too, Chris.
Bye.
Lots of love. Bye.
Bye-bye.
What a journey. From a Tassie boy stepping off the plane into the big smoke of Sydney, to clowning around on Cartoon Corner and the Super Flying Fun Show. What a genius way to start. And how about that story of bumping into a young Johnny Farnham? Proof that this industry thrives on generosity, with performers always ready to lift each other up. Then, of course, came the big one, the Young Doctors. 7 years, over 1,000 episodes, and all while raising 7 children. Can you imagine? Feeding, clothing, schooling a small tribe on an actor's pay packet? Chris and Susie deserve medals for that alone. And some of those 7 have gone on to shine in entertainment themselves. How wonderful is that? And let's not forget the discovery of the fabulous Natalie Imbruglia. What a gift to the world. Chris has never stopped giving back to the industry that gave him so much, and I truly admire that. He faced a tough illness with grit and humour, bounced back stronger, and still brings that effervescent spark wherever he goes. He's proudly Australian, unashamedly generous, and endlessly entertaining. And I, for one, can't wait to see him work his magic again in Breaker Morant this May at Tuggerah. So, my lovelies, that's all for today's episode. This is Lulu signing off from Set to Sofa. Be sure to tune in next week, and I promise there'll be just as many surprises, giggles, and of course heartwarming stories waiting for you. Until then, a bientôt.
Thanks for listening with an open heart. But now it's time for us to part. So tell everybody that you know to tune in next week to Lulu's show. From Set to Sofa is where it's at. And Lulu, darling, just loves a chat. She talks to starlets with grace and style. Lulu sure will make you smile.